This is Marcus Bowman for U.S. Senate. My website is marcusbowman2016.com. Today I want to talk about the presidential primary and who I would support if I were voting. Now, the reality is I'm running a statewide campaign, so I need the votes of folks that support Marco Rubio, Carly Fiorina, Jeb Bush, Donald Trump, Ben Carson, Ted Cruz. I need all of their support. But anyway, I'm going to talk about all the candidates, including the Democrats. Now, Hillary Clinton probably scares me the most for two reasons. Her health is maybe a little bit of a problem, but because she's somebody that believes she's above the law, and the Clintons kind of just close up and they don't believe that they need to talk to anybody, and it's kind of their way or the highway, and they're above the fray. And I believe that that's the most dangerous thing that could happen to America because we need to have adult conversations. We need to be talking about solving issues, and the Clintons' whole strategy is going to be divisive. Now, Bill, that was a good era back in the late 90s. We did have that kind of adult conversation. We saw some, negotiating similar to how Reagan worked with the Democrats in the 80s. That's what we need to return to, but I'm just not sure that Hillary is like Bill in that manner, and so she concerns me the most. Bernie Sanders, it looks like he might win the Democratic nomination, and I could envision working with a Bernie Sanders, and I'll work with anybody that becomes president because I don't think we can kick the can down the road 4 years, and I don't want to kick the can down the road 4 years. And I believe in the win-win-win philosophy that you can negotiate with anybody, stay true to your principles, and sit down and find pathways of ways that you can work together. That doesn't mean forming a gang of eight and compromising on who you are, but it does mean that you need to be somebody that'll sit down with everybody. So I am. Now, on the Republican side of the ballot, I'm going to say I did read Donald Trump's Crippled America book, and I was very impressed. It's by a couple things. I mean, number one, he really talks about returning America to greatness, and I think that that's a very optimistic perspective because we do kind of think that everything is maybe going wrong in America, and there are a lot of things going wrong, and it's nice to have somebody that's kind of got, hey, I can get us to better days. I also believe that Donald Trump is somebody that the buck stops with him, and not just that the buck stops with him, but he's got a lot of experience in kind of working with people to get deals done, and I think that that's very important. When you read his book, it really comes through. Like, this is a guy that gets buildings done. So you're talking about permitting. You're talking about, working with so many different levels of people and employing folks and managing a project. And Donald Trump's somebody that gets people in a room and negotiates and gets something done. And so I really support Donald Trump in that sense. And I think that he's also somebody that's unafraid to just say things. And the frank reality is, in America, one of our biggest problems is political correctness. And I think it's okay to talk your game. I think it's okay that Bernie Sanders is out there talking things that I don't agree with, but I think it's great that we have people that are unafraid to talk about their values. Now that brings me to Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz is also somebody that talks Christian values and conservative positions like nobody I've ever seen before. I mean, if he actually legislates and governs the way that he talks about, he's a dream come true for a true conservative and a Christian. Um, I'm so impressed by some of the stands he takes because I know local politicians that won't even say things against Common Core, and here's Ted Cruz out there, and he's not afraid to not mince words with 20 cameras on him. I also have seen Ted Cruz after a rally talk to every person that wanted to stay and shake people's hands. There were 1,500 people at an event not too far from my house that I went to, and Ted Cruz stayed. He didn't go out the back door like most candidates do and have something more important to do. He stayed and shook everybody's hand. Now, a lot of people went home because they've got other things to do as soon as the rally ends, but if they wanted to stay, and they did stay, and they wanted to shake Ted Cruz's hand, they got to. And I can't say enough about somebody like that. Now, Ted Cruz, a couple things that do concern me is I know he came up in the Bush orbit through Texas, and he worked in the Bush administration. And also, his wife is very connected to Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs epitomizes the central bank control, the too much tight control of these New York banks and their collusion with the Federal Reserve and Treasury Department in Washington, D.C., that I want to see kind of broken up so that we can get broader economic growth going in America that touches more people. We need incomes to go up. We need more quality job creation. and this Goldman Sachs mentality, this Federal Reserve mindset that they think everything's all right because the stock market goes up is not helping our economy enough. So Ted Cruz does worry me in that sense. Ben Carson, super sharp, super impressive. Again, I also saw him speak, saw Ted Cruz speak, went to his rally down here. A lot of the candidates are going through right within an hour of my house, which says a lot about this neck of the woods and how we actually can be leaders in America here in Alabama and along the Gulf Coast to use our common sense and our values to help get America going in the right direction. And that's why Marcus Bowman can be more than just the next U.S. Senator, but a true leader in Washington, D.C. But Ben Carson, super sharp guy. I mean, very knowledgeable. I mean, he sat there and talked about like 17 different topics of the budget and issues that we need to solve up in Washington, D.C. And he was rattling off statistics. I've never seen anybody, really as sharp and on top of things. Now, he's a little mild-mannered in his approach. I mean, some folks maybe can't even hear him speaking if you're, up in the rafters at this event that was at the Mitchell Center here in Mobile at the USA campus. It's maybe hard to hear him speak sometimes just because he talks so softly. But I do like his values and the words that he chooses, like heal and inspire, that are a part of his campaign because they're so important and so true to what we actually really need in America. So he's on spot on message. He's very sharp and knowledgeable. He also, I believe, instead of maybe being that in your face kind of leader like Donald Trump, who the buck stops here, and that's what I admire about Donald Trump, by the way, because as president, you need to be executive, you need to make sharp decisions. Whereas as a U.S. senator, you're next U.S. senator. I'm one of 100 in a body, so it's a different type of leadership. But anyway, Ben Carson is probably somebody that brings a lot of folks around the table, super smart people, and helps make a decision that way. And so I could see supporting Ben Carson. Marco Rubio holds himself very presidential. And I like that about Marco Rubio. And I was excited when Rubio first came on the national scene. I am concerned about his positions on immigration. I am concerned that he won't take a stand on the TPP trade bill, which I think is bad for America. And so I view him as maybe a little bit too much of an establishment candidate, and that's not the direction that I think we need to be going in Washington, D.C. Jeb Bush, I will tell you, I think what a sharp guy, what a balanced guy, what a great life story, a lot of good practical experience, maybe the best person resume-wise and balance and experience-wise on the of all the presidential candidates, maybe best suited to be the next president. But because he's a Bush, there's zero chance that I could support him. And believe me, I liked George W. Bush. I mean, I was 110% behind him up until some of the things in the last year. That TARP bailout really changed me forever in his disregard of free market values. And so I just swore off, Bush forever, and I can't trust a Bush. And so I wouldn't vote for Jeb, and a lot of people feel that way, and it's unfortunate. But then it wasn't unfortunate as we've seen him in the debates. He's just unbelievable how he's just cratered in the debates and just not shown any leadership. And then you've got Rand Paul. Really admire Rand Paul. Think he's a sharp guy. I think he's running a pretty good grassroots campaign and might, shake things up more than people think. And so we'll just have to see where that goes. And then you've got folks like Huckabee and Santorum, who I really support their values, but not really hearing much about them. Carly Fiorina, love her in the debates. Amazing some of the conservative and Christian positions that she takes in the debates, but then you never hear from her outside of the debates, which I find kind of surprising. And then Christie, New Jersey guy, a little too brash for me. I don't think we need somebody that's across the river from the Wall Street banks. I know where he's getting his money from, and so I'm not going to be a Chris Christie fan. Love his authoritative way of communicating. I don't like how he talks, but I like how he's just authoritative in his decision making, and so he is an executive. I do like that about Chris Christie. He's somebody that says what he means, and I respect that. But again, I'm not going to support anybody across the river from the Wall Street banks, so I'm out on Chris Christie. I think that pretty much runs every presidential candidate down. Marcus Bowman, 2016, I need your support. I need your vote on March 1st. Marcus Bowman for U.S. Senate.